Welcome back. We're on day 21 of this war, and today I want to tell you what is actually happening to the global economy in real time, because the numbers being reported this morning are no longer war statistics. They are economic emergency figures. And they are being produced not by a battlefield, but by a series of drone strikes on refineries, gas terminals, and oil facilities stretching from Kuwait to Qatar to the UAE to Saudi Arabia. Iran is not fighting a military campaign anymore. It is conducting a systematic economic demolition of the Gulf energy infrastructure that the entire modern world depends on. And today, we are going to fact-check every claim being made about it from every direction. Let's start with Kuwait, because it is today's confirmed headline, and it deserves the full treatment. Drones struck Kuwait's largest oil refinery for the second consecutive day on Friday, as Iran launched a sweeping assault on energy infrastructure across the Gulf, with fires breaking out across multiple units at the Mina al-Ahmadi refinery, which processes about 730,000 barrels of oil per day. CBS News, the second consecutive day. The same facility hit 2 days in a row. Kuwait said 2 waves of drone strikes at its Mina al-Ahmadi oil refinery sparked a fire, and crews were working to control the blaze, with the refinery already having been damaged Thursday in another Iranian attack. Al Jazeera, 2 waves of strikes. Not one. 2 separate waves of drones on the same facility on the same morning. Kuwait's national oil company confirmed multiple units were shut down, though no casualties were reported. And the timing of this attack deserves to be stated explicitly. The strikes occurred as Kuwaitis marked Eid al-Fitr, the celebration ending the holy month of Ramadan. CBS News Iran struck Kuwait's largest oil refinery on Eid al-Fitr morning. The strategic and symbolic calculation behind that timing is deliberate, and it is designed to maximize the political pressure on Gulf governments that are already straining to maintain neutrality. Now let me tell you what Mina al-Ahmadi actually represents, because the name appears in headlines without most viewers understanding its strategic weight. Mina al-Ahmadi is a strategic export hub, underpinning state revenue and global refined fuel supply to Asia and Europe. The facility's gas operations, including 5 processing trains, handle 3.1 billion cubic feet per day and 332,000 barrels per day of condensate, reinforcing its central operational role. CNBC, 3.1 billion cubic feet of gas per day. That is not a small facility knocked offline. That is a cornerstone of Kuwait's entire energy export architecture, shut down under emergency conditions on one of the most significant religious holidays in the Islamic calendar. Energy is the main channel through which geopolitical shocks feed into supply chains, said Sapna Amlani, supply chains industry practice lead at Moody's Analytics. CNBC, that statement is not analysis anymore. It is a description of what is happening right now in real time across every supply chain that depends on Gulf energy. Let's look at the full scale of Iran's energy targeting campaign over the past 72 hours, because when you lay all the confirmed strikes together, the picture is unlike anything the world has seen since the 1990 Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. Qatar's Ras Laffan, the world's largest LNG terminal, struck twice in 12 hours, with 17% of global LNG capacity destroyed. QatarEnergy chief Saad al-Kaabi said repairs could take between 3 and 5 years, and that the scale of destruction had set the region back 10 to 20 years. CBS News, 10 to 20 years. That is not a temporary disruption. That is a generational setback to Qatar's energy infrastructure delivered in a single 72-hour period. Kuwait's Mina al-Ahmadi and Mina Abdullah refineries both struck. UAE's Al Dhafra Air Base and Habshan gas facility targeted. Saudi Arabia's air defenses intercepting ballistic missiles launched toward Riyadh. And Iran's foreign minister has warned that all of this represents, in his own words, a fraction of the country's capabilities, with zero restraint promised if Iranian energy facilities are struck again. Now, I want to fact-check the most important contradictory claim of the past 24 hours, because it comes from the highest level, and it has direct consequences for everything that happens next. Netanyahu said on Thursday that Iran's capability to produce ballistic missiles had been taken out. That was his exact claim. Taken out. The IRGC spokesman, General Ali Mohammed Naini, responded directly, saying, "We are producing missiles even during war conditions, which is amazing, and there is no particular problem in stockpiling." ABC News, taken out versus no particular problem in stockpiling. Those two statements cannot both be true. One man is lying, or one man is describing a different reality than the evidence supports. Here is what the physical evidence shows. Iran struck Kuwait's Mina al-Ahmadi refinery twice on Friday with drones. Iran struck Ras Laffan twice in 12 hours on Wednesday and Thursday. Iran launched 2 separate missile barrages at Israel on Friday morning within the space of 1 hour. Brent crude oil, which spiked to more than $119 a barrel during Iran's attacks, Thursday was around $107 in morning trading on Friday. up more than 47% since Israel and the United States attacked Iran on February 28th. ABC News. A country with its missile production taken out does not simultaneously conduct sustained multi-wave drone and missile campaigns across 5 countries on the same day that claim is made. The global economic picture this morning requires its own dedicated fact check, because the numbers are unprecedented, and they are being systematically underreported relative to their actual significance. Flows of crude and petroleum have dropped by about 12 million barrels per day, roughly 12% of global demand, due to output cuts and export halts by Gulf producers. Those barrels cannot easily be replaced by the transport, shipping, and manufacturing industries that rely on them and will make themselves felt for months or even years. Bloomberg. 12 million barrels per day, 12% of global demand, offline, not reduced, not at risk. Offline right now. International Energy Agency Chief Fatih Birol told the Financial Times restoring oil and gas flows might take 6 months. Bloomberg, the IEA chief, 6 months. That is not an analyst's estimate or a think tank projection. That is the head of the organization that coordinates the world's emergency oil reserves, telling the world's most read financial newspaper that this energy disruption will last at minimum 6 months. Governments across Asia are already rationing electricity and cutting office hours. TV Guide. Already, present tense, today. Not a future risk scenario, not an analyst's warning about what might happen. Governments in Asia are rationing electricity and cutting office hours right now on day 21 of this war. Chinese refiners have reportedly reduced processing activity amid supply uncertainty, while Japan has begun using its strategic petroleum reserves. CNN Japan using strategic reserves, China reducing refinery operations. These are the world's second and third largest economies responding to a war that began 21 days ago. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright said some Asian customers could receive supplies within 3 or 4 days if the U.S. decided to remove its own sanctions on Iranian oil currently stored at sea. Bloomberg read that statement very carefully. America's own energy secretary is suggesting the solution to the energy crisis caused by America's war against Iran is to release Iranian oil that America's own sanctions have been blocking. The country that started this war to prevent Iran from having nuclear weapons is now considering releasing Iranian oil to prevent an energy catastrophe caused by that same war. That is the logical circle this conflict has produced in 21 days. Now, I need to address the South Pars situation because it produced one of the most revealing political splits of this entire conflict. Israel struck South Pars, Iran's largest gas field supplying 80% of Iran's domestic natural gas needs. Netanyahu said Israel had acted alone in striking South Pars and would hold off further attacks on energy infrastructure at the request of U.S. President Donald Trump, who had distanced himself from the strike. CBS News. Trump distanced himself from an Israeli strike. That sentence deserves to sit with you. America's president publicly distancing himself from an action taken by America's military partner in the middle of a joint military operation. Trump did not coordinate the South Pars strike. Israel went ahead without American approval. And when Iran retaliated by destroying Qatar's LNG capacity and attacking Kuwait's refineries, Trump told Netanyahu to stop further energy infrastructure strikes. Netanyahu then said he would comply at Trump's request. But the damage was already done. Qatar's Ras Laffan is offline for 3 to 5 years. Kuwait's refineries are on fire, and the two leaders running this joint military campaign are now publicly disagreeing about targeting decisions in real time. Netanyahu said on Thursday that overthrowing Iran's government would require a ground component. Bloomberg, a ground component. 3 weeks into a war that was supposed to be an air campaign. The man who told Fox News on day 4 that this would be quick and decisive is now telling reporters that regime change requires ground troops. A U.S. official and 3 people familiar with the matter told Reuters this week that the U.S. was considering deploying thousands more troops to the Middle East, potentially even landing on Iran's shore or its Karg Island oil export hub. Asked about such reports, Trump said, "If I were, I certainly would not tell you, but I am not putting troops. We will do whatever is necessary." Bloomberg, "We will do whatever is necessary. That is not a denial. That is a conditional commitment. And the conditional it is attached to, whatever is necessary, has no defined ceiling." The IRGC spokesman who told the world that Iran's missiles were still in production and stockpiling was killed in an Israeli airstrike hours after making that statement. Israel killed a spokesman of Iran's Revolutionary Guards as the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran showed no sign of ending. Bloomberg Iran responded to that killing the same way it has responded to every killing since February 28th, with another wave of strikes. In Israel, Sirens sounded early Friday warning of attacks on Jerusalem and on the north of the country, sending people again scrambling to shelters. Not long after Israel announced it had begun new strikes on Iran, The sound of explosions were heard in Tehran as Iranians marked Nowruz, or the Persian New Year. ABC News Iran bombed on Nowruz. Israel bombed on al-Fitr. Both sides striking during the most significant religious and cultural holidays of the region. That is not an accident on either side. It is a deliberate message about resolve. Al Jazeera's correspondent in Dubai, Zain Basravi, said Gulf leaders were trying to maintain some kind of poise as these attacks escalate. But it was becoming increasingly hard to see how the situation could continue without some kind of breaking point. TV Guide. A breaking point. That is a correspondent based in the region, watching events unfold in real time, telling you that the people running the countries being bombed are running out of room to absorb what is happening without being forced to make a decision about which side of this war they are on. Here is where the facts leave us on day 21. Kuwait's largest refinery struck for the second consecutive day on Eid al-Fitr morning. 12% of global oil demand offline. IEA chief says restoration will take 6 months. Asian governments rationing electricity today. Japan drawing on strategic reserves. China cutting refinery operations. QatarEnergy CEO says Ras Laffan repairs will take 3 to 5 years. Netanyahu claims Iran's missile production is taken out. Iran's IRGC says production is continuing with no particular problem. Netanyahu says regime change requires ground troops. Trump says we will do whatever is necessary. Israel struck South Pars without American approval. Trump told Netanyahu to stop energy strikes. The IRGC spokesman was killed hours after saying Iran was still stockpiling missiles. Explosions were heard in Tehran on Nowruz. Sirens sounded in Jerusalem on Eid al-Fitr. And a Eurasia Group analyst told Al Jazeera the conflict appears to be entering an escalatory phase with no clear end in sight. We will keep verifying. We will keep counting. We will keep naming what is actually happening. Stay with us.